picking up like a radio frequency. My headphones.
Is the TV downstairs?
Well, you caught me. I'm a robot.
Oh no!
How do you experience? Is it the McDonald's drive-thru? Is that what you're hearing? I'll take a number 2. My bad.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of This Is My Bourbon podcast. I'm your host, Perry. We are streaming live on YouTube right now for everybody to see all the nuts and bolts, all the guts and glory that is recording an episode of This Is My Bourbon podcast. And here with me tonight are Curtis and Swan. Welcome, guys.
What's up?
Hey, Barry.
It's also Swan's birthday.
Yeah, I'm getting
Happy
older.
birthday.
Even better.
Happy birthday. So it's so funny that last time
Where's
we
the
were
fireball?
on the table.
Yeah.
On the table.
The last time we recorded, it was Curtis's birthday.
Yep.
And the very next week, Swan's birthday.
And the very next week after that?
My
Not
birthday's
Perry.
not until August.
Not Perry's birthday.
Not my birthday.
Yeah.
We're going to need to move that.
Okay, well, anyway, we just can't record until August.
Oh, okay.
That'll do.
Well, we're starting off the show as we normally do with Flying Blind, where I blind the guests with something that they don't know about. And this was sent to me, actually.
Okay.
This was a sample that was sent to me by one of our viewers, one of our friends, Joseph Brazo.
All right, Joseph.
So,
I'm about it.
yeah.
I'm liking
The
it.
nose is really good.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the nose. Little funky.
Little bit, yeah.
dusty, but not too much so. I'd say that some
Is
of
that
the-
foreshadowing?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know what the face that I just made was.
Yeah, I get a little bit of the funk, but it's also light caramel, like those nice sweet notes.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of ethanol on it, which I like.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
I don't have a problem with this nose by any means. I think that it's real nice.
Very mellow.
Yeah.
That is good. That's complex.
That is very complex.
Oh. Okay.
Wow.
Hey-o.
That's good.
Thank you, Joe.
Joseph is the man.
Yes. Cheers to you, my friend.
Dang, that's a...
I was not expecting the spice on that.
I wasn't expecting the spice. I
No.
wasn't expecting that kind of earthy note that's in there too. Like there's a kind of a leafy greeniness to it that I'm picking up, and not that it's like a youngness to
Kind of like
it.
that piney green.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely there, but it doesn't. It's not like it's young or anything. It's just a very specific note that's sticking out to me. There's some citrusiness there as well. A little bit, like kind of orange peely.
I can get behind that.
But it's not, I mean, it's not overpowering. It's just,
No,
it's just present.
It's just there.
I'm a fan. I don't know what else to say.
This is a delicious pour. And I can't wait to know what it is, even though I'll never be able to have it again, I'm sure, based off of what I've been told.
Man,
I had no idea what it is.
I'll tell you, though, the finish, I think, is really maybe my favorite part. Because once that finish hits, and it really starts going into, like, this roller coaster of the flavors, where I, like, on that second sip, I'm starting to pick up, like, like chocolate and a little bit of, like, almond butter on there, too. I can't get over how good this pour is.
Yeah. A little bit of hazelnut.
Yes, that's what's in there, too.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was so close
Searching
to it.
for it, yeah.
I was really trying
Yeah.
to find it, yeah. So I guess it's time to let you guys know what this is.
Yeah.
What am I drinking here, Perry?
Swan, I saved this especially for you tonight. This is a 1997 Elijah Craig 12-year.
Whoa.
All right.
What
It's
do you have
good.
to-
It's good.
Yeah, man.
Big Red 12.
So for anybody who doesn't know, Swan is a huge Elijah Craig fan, as I am as well. But I don't think that I would have really gotten into it if it hadn't been for you giving me that bottle of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof that you didn't like
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah. No, it's
Now you kick yourself for it a little bit.
It's all right. Shared it. We're all better for it. No, it's good. I think I like this better than your rear age stated. There's a definite
I do
difference.
too.
Yeah,
do
this
too,
is
yeah.
a little bit more mellow and like not as heat forward.
Uh-huh.
This is like instead of heat, you get the spice,
Yeah,
which I much prefer.
I totally agree with you. Well, I'm also going to make up for that bottle that you gave me, too, by later on giving a fresh crack of an Elijah Craig Barrel Proof B517.
All right, I've not had that one in a long time.
Yeah, I came across this fairly recently and wanted to save it, of course, for something special. So
Your birthday?
here we are.
All right.
So that was Flying Blind.
This is the best flying blind we have ever had.
I think, and it keeps
It really
getting,
is,
It
though.
keeps getting better and better every time too. I think.
Yeah.
Because we started out with the really crappy, awful stuff, like that Hayes Parker we had at that one point.
Gosh.
What else do we? I can't even remember. Oh, it's like Breckenridge or something.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, no,
none of
not
it was
Brecken-
very
not
It
good.
was
Breckenridge.
None of
Black
it was very
Ridge,
good.
wasn't it?
No, Blackridge is good. That's the small batch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had some that were.
We've had some
not
really
fantastic.
terrible ones.
Yeah.
That's the point we're trying to make here. Anyway, well, that was Flying Blind. So I got to ask you guys now, what have you been drinking recently?
I bought a bottle of Russell's Reserve picked by our store, and I've been having that. It's pretty good. It's not my favorite pick that we've ever had. I think
Yeah.
it was kind of one of those deals where, you got a couple of barrels that maybe weren't your favorite, and you're picking your favorite out of the bunch, but there's better options out there, especially after having like your King of Kentucky one that you had, the True King of Kentucky one. That one's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But it's it's solid. It's hard to go wrong with some of those picks.
I've been haven't been sipping on the old rare breed, man.
You just
It's
can't
just
go
a
wrong
staple.
with it.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Good price point, in my opinion.
I had it the other day as well, and that's kind of something that I've been drinking recently too.
Mm.
But what's funny is that I've been drinking the 112 proof instead of the 116.
Yeah.
Because I found some 375s of it.
Oh, okay.
And so I've been really enjoying that. But then I also had the other day for the first time in I don't know how long, Four Roses small batch.
That'd be good for the preparation for that new release they're doing.
Yeah, which we will definitely wind up doing, whether it's on a live stream or for an episode or whatever. Man, that's a good bottle.
Yeah, it's hard to go wrong with that. I mean, you kind of overlook it, but it's good.
And I mean, it's kind of hard to go wrong with it for the price and the proof. And really just the fact that you're kind of getting, so many different aspects of what makes Four Roses special, too. And, the single barrels are always fantastic. But I think that if you're really trying to understand what Four Roses is about, you go for that small batch. Because that's one of their more well-crafted, or specifically crafted products.
Yeah. And it's
So-
going to be consistent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Here we go.
Here we go again, back into our past
Hey,
two episodes.
people have been loving the small batch and single barrel episodes.
Which is great, because
Yeah.
that's such a good conversation to have.
yeah, so thank you everybody who's been
Yeah.
listening to those and downloading. If you're new to the show, welcome. We're happy to have you all along. Any way that we can bring new listeners in, it's a good
And new
day
bourbon
with that.
drinkers, man.
Absolutely, new
Yeah.
bourbon drinkers, better bourbon drinkers. So tonight's going to be a little bit of a different conversation than what we've had before. When we were prepping for this week, we're going, what's the topic going to be for this episode? And I was thinking, well, we've done celebratory pours. We've done special pours. But then I thought, it's Swan's birthday. How much has changed for us as bourbon drinkers over the past year? So I figured we'd kind of take a step back, and maybe not just a year back, but even a little bit further than that, and
Our
really
very first.
and really reflect on what made us the bourbon drinkers that we are today. let me tell you, it's not what you think it is.
Oh.
Or maybe it is.
Yeah, you
I
could
don't know.
probably believe it.
So I'm going to suggest that's our next pour.
Okay.
We're just going to, look, man, we'll just rip the Band-Aid off. We'll get right to it.
Literally.
Won't have to worry about it anymore. So we're all three having different things at this point. Curtis is drinking Maker's Mark.
Makers.
Swan is drinking Fireball. I'm drinking American Honey.
The fact Perry is drinking American honey cracks me
Isn't
up.
that funny? Honey?
Yeah.
Okay.
These were the three that we kind of cut our teeth. Swan just smelled
And he's
Fireball
putting
for the
Fireball
first time
in a
the
Glencairn. Beautiful.
Are we all going? I don't want to go Glencairn with the honey. It might stick to the inside of the glass if I want to reuse
Oh,
it.
it's okay. I'm gonna get
I'm
some
not.
notes here.
I'm not going Glencairn. I'm sorry. I'm going with the. This is the weirdest thing. I don't know when the last time I had American honey straight was. Swan's really struggling with this one. I think Curtis got the best pour out of the bunch, honestly.
He did, yeah.
Hey, I love the nose on this. It's so sweet.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
you're
just
not doing
Smells like
bad.
honey, I'm sure.
It smells like a cocktail more than it does anything
Yeah.
else. Like, it doesn't have bourbon notes to it. It
yeah,
has
exactly.
sweet cocktail honey notes to
The
it.
tough part on that, too, is it's so thick. It's just a syrup.
It's extremely viscous. I mean, you can see how thick it is. Like, it actually looks like honey
Yeah.
as you kind of hold it up and look at it in the glass.
Mine's got notes of poor decision making and cinnamon.
Guys, I don't know what the problem is. Mine smells like bourbon. Smells pretty good.
Must be nice. Is anybody sick? We could trade glasses.
I'm just gonna go for it, man.
So are we doing this like we did in college? Like, are we shooting it?
No,
I'm just joking.
no.
I'm just joking.
No, this is not my drunk podcast.
Well, I only poured half the airplane bottle. I'm not crazy.
Yeah, I did about the same. Curtis went full
Poured
on
the
though.
whole thing, but I'm not going to drink it all.
Nah, it's all fine. It's all good. All right, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers, I guess.
Oh. No.
Mine's not too bad.
Why
You know.
is this what I drank neat? Why?
Oh, man.
You drank that neat?
Yes. I would drink
Oh my gosh.
American honey or Jim Beam honey. Neat.
Perry.
Yeah,
Okay. I don't even have a comment for it.
you shouldn't. Because I've had plenty internal comments
Yeah.
over the years about it.
I had
You know,
this,
the maker's good for the first.
Yeah, it's not really a bad cut in your teeth
No.
bourbon by any
no,
means.
not at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's not ideal, but, like, for your first bourbon, pretty solid, sweet. On the front of the palate, it's you know, you get your bourbon and stuff, and then it goes off on a weird kind of note.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Do you want to trade?
No! Do you want to trade?
Yes. No, I'm good.
Anybody want makers?
Cleans your palate with some makers, I
Yeah.
guess.
Oh.
That was a trip down memory lane,
Yeah.
I'd say.
This is why when I get bourbons now that have a hint of cinnamon, I'm like,
You really notice it.
Can't do it.
I don't know about this. I still like cinnamon. It calls back to something that's a little rough.
And
Brings
rough
back
it is.
memories.
Oh.
Well, that wasn't so much like celebration as much as it was just kind of
It's all right. Sarah
revisiting
did
our
a Jaeger
past.
bomb on her last podcast or on her last live stream, so I can stomach some Fireball.
God bless her.
Yeah,
God bless
she
her.
took one for the troops there.
What do we want to do next? Do we want to go for Weller 12?
Let's just go for some bourbon.
Okay.
Not flavored
Well,
whiskey.
I say Weller 12 because that's one of the lower proof options that we have on the table.
Yeah.
If you're okay with that,
Yeah.
Curtis. I know
Yeah,
that's
let's go for it.
the one you brought.
So if we're going with like how you progressed in bourbon with Weller 12, this was like one of the first ones that I started like really seeking.
Yeah.
As soon as like I got to the point where I was like, okay, I found Special Reserve. It's good, but I need something that's kind of a step up.
And I mean, this was on my radar for so long too, as like something that I was like, I have to have Weller 12. And I mean, I got it, and I was so happy that I got it. But now that I have it, I'm like, I can wait. There's
Yeah,
other
and
stuff
mine-
I'd rather have.
Mine was 107.
Yeah.
That was my first kind of entry into the Weller products. Like even before I had Special Reserve.
Yeah.
And then I went to the 12. And to be honest, I've always been a fan of the 107 a little more.
Me too.
I would agree, but what's going on with this bottle, though?
It's been sitting for a little bit, but not like it's been open for like
This bottle
a
smells
year
sweet.
or so.
Like, sweeter than I ever remember Weller 12 smelling.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe my nose is just accustomed to the sweetness after the American honey.
That could be
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
But
No, but I just nosed it, and it's very sweet.
that is fantastic. It's like a shortbread cookie
Yeah, definitely.
with a little bit of lemon zest or lemon peel or something like that.
A little bit of cherry.
Uh-huh. It's so different from what I'm used to with Weller 12.
It's been a while since I've had it, but I remember it being like heavier on the oak.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
not getting a ton on this one. I mean, I'm fine with that because I remember going back to our one that we did for Pappy Holidays, and we kind of commented that this is the big distinction between the two. You know, the Lot B being 12 years old and this being 12 years old there was kind of a heftier oak on the Weller 12.
But in this specific bottle,
I think there is on the palate. There's definitely oakiness on the palate.
Yeah, I'm getting it now.
I'm not. Yeah, I can't find it at all in the nose, but it's most certainly there on the palate.
That extra age just does something, man.
Oh yeah,
Compared to like the Special Reserve.
for sure.
And I think that the 107, I tend to lean towards that, but I think that's just for the proof's sake. If I, still kind of brought that down to a 90 proof, I think I'd pick the 12 every time.
it's funny how it takes a total 180 from the nose to the palate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which isn't like a bad thing for me.
I do sometimes look for consistency between nose to palate and kind of compare that to quality.
Yeah.
But it's not always a bad thing when you get something different when it kind of accentuates what's already going on.
Yeah, you don't lose
Yeah.
what you have on the nose at all.
The ones that get me is when you get like a candied, sugared, nose, and then you get into the flavor, and it's basically just like licking a barrel.
Yeah.
I mean that.
Straight char.
Yeah, and it's like a very contrasting thing. But this one just takes what's there and moves up. I do lose a little bit of the sweetness, but I'm not mad about that.
I'm not either.
What about the finish, do you think?
I think it's a little short. And I can't remember what our conversation was on this at the end of last year, but I kind of remember feeling the same way. Like the finish just left a little something to be desired.
I think we kind of led down the path that the Lot B was just more nuanced, and this was kind of more of a
rougher
good,
edge.
good, solid one-note type deal. And I'd still agree with that. I mean, it's good. Both of the finishes I remember being a little bit short, but I tend to get the better finishes on the larger, like the bigger proof stuff. Like any of your Bookers that you get, their finish is phenomenal. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So I think back to a year ago, March 7th, 2018. This for me was kind of a unicorn at that point. And while I still love this pour, there are so many more things out there that I'm hunting for. I mean, I would much rather buy a bottle of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. I'd much rather buy a Booker's.
Yeah.
Even a Knob Creek single barrel store pick.
Yeah.
I would much rather reach for.
Just watching from the outside in, seeing kind of what your preference has been, I've seen it lean from Buffalo Trace to now you're more excited to find anything before 2010 Wild Turkey.
Yeah, I know.
It's taken a total 180 because Wild Turkey's always been one of those brands for a lot of people where it's like, that's what you cut your teeth on. It's not great. You mix it, and then you're like, I found a 2009 Wild Turkey 101. Like, waiting for a good event.
Just an old Dusty here.
Yeah.
I got an 07, an 06,
That's
and a
ridiculous,
10 behind
man.
me right now.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
I wish I could find some of that.
So I mean,
Gotta know
it's,
people.
You gotta know people. You gotta be in the
gotta
market.
connect.
You know.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
so I mean, that's a definite change. I think for me, my big thing is I've just moved away from thinking that Buffalo Trace can do no wrong. Like I mean, I've not had anything bad from Buffalo Trace, but at the same time, I'm not sitting there like going to my liquor store that I'm not going to name and every Wednesday morning waiting for them to show up with a truck and hoping there's something Buffalo Trace on there. Now I'm comfortable going to the shelf and just looking for something Heaven Hill that's always there, that's good and solid. So
See, which with Weller 12, that was kind of a milestone bourbon for me at the beginning of the year because that was the first time that I had actually went out and got something and like seeked it out and found it and talked to the owner of the liquor store and that was like my first kind of bourbon hunting experience.
Big find, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was what was really exciting about this and this bottle in particular. But since then, I've started straying a little bit of, like you guys were saying, from going, oh, Buffalo Trace Weller, like, yes, I have to have it. It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
To, okay, well, let's try to find some of these, specific, either something older or something that is a single barrel or
More
finding those kind
just
of
limited kind of in general.
Yeah.
That's not to say though that I don't get excited to still find E.H. Taylor or Stag Jr. Or stuff like that.
yeah,
Because I mean, gosh, I love E.H. Taylor small batch. It's one of my favorite bourbons. Period.
Mhm.
And even all the way up to the barrel proof. I mean, they are spectacular bourbons. But again, there are just now at this point for me so many other things that I would rather find. Honestly, a year ago, I don't think I ever would have considered trying to find a birth year bottle for me either.
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm on
Which
the hunt.
I'm on the aspect of I've never tried doing that. Like that's even a new concept.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I mean, we're in such a specific age too, where people are, finding the Old Forester birthday bourbons for the year that their kids were born. Or Blanton's dump dates from when their kids were born or when they were married or whatever. And it's funny because we fall into the newer bourbon drinkers that are trying to rediscover things or really just discover things from kind of a bygone era that we didn't get to experience simply because we were too young to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of something just clicked for me. I was like, man, I really want something from my birth year.
It's really longing for it.
I was like, I just really want a bottle of Turkey 101 from 1993. Like, it would just be awesome. And now I'm just searching for it. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to find that bottle.
It just goes to show, like, when you focus on finding something or a goal of something, you're like, you can find it for the most part. Even in the midst of such a limited quantity.
Well, I think that brings up a good point, too. And kind of an open topic for conversation. What were some of the goals that you guys reached over the past year as a bourbon drinker? Whether it was bottle acquisition or trying something new or experiences or whatever.
Yeah, my bottle acquisition in terms of the Weller products, that was probably my biggest thing. I'm not one to kind of go and, go really search out, which is something that I've previously just started kind of getting into. But in terms of just like bourbon experience and like progressing throughout that and like my palate, I've really started to notice that I can pick up on some of those subtle notes, like, this tastes, I think I found like the almond butter you were talking about, or wow, this really tastes like a Werther's original, like I really was picking up some of these these notes that I had never ever thought I
Yeah.
would experience. Like even going back of thinking, these people are crazy. I'm like, you are not picking up toffee on this. Not coffee, but toffee.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and now I'm like, oh well.
I get that a lot.
Yeah. Now I'm getting some of those things.
I think my big thing was I wanted to find something older, like a dusty of some sort, and I just wanted to get one like really good one, and we got one for Chad, and it was a 1998 Booker's release, and that was just awesome. Just finding something old and unique because you've been picking up, age-stated Jim Beam Black and some older Wild Turkey and stuff. And just to find one at a reasonable price, it was exciting. That was kind of my goal for this year. Because previously, I had just been going for the newest, most interesting release that was the hardest to find that I could get my hands on. That was pretty much the goal. It didn't matter who it was from, who it was distilled by, any of that. I just wanted to grab that. As long as it was at retail, which is getting harder and harder and harder to do.
Yeah. For me, one of the biggest things that I was looking forward to over the past year was trying Dusties. Not necessarily acquiring them, which I've done, and I've been very happy with, but just getting to experience them. And boy, have I.
Yeah.
I mean, the range of stuff that I've had has gone all the way back to, as early as 1892 at the Bardstown Bourbon Company.
Yeah.
All the way up, even into the 90s, some of that's still, at this point, considered dusty. And it's been so interesting and such a fun experience for me getting to see these little pockets and see these little eras of whiskey distillation or whiskey production and finding out what people during that time were experiencing and trying and doing with their products. And it's made me understand and appreciate more what today's drinks are like, what today's bourbons and whiskeys and ryes are like. And I really am just so thankful that I've even been able to
To get some of
to
those.
do
Yeah.
that. Acquisition aside, just being able to try them.
Well, that's even for me. Like, just last week for my birthday, or 2 weeks for my birthday, I got to try the Jim Beam Black that was from, what year was that?
1978.
Yeah, 1978. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I
so
know.
cool.
I know.
And just seeing the history and those pockets that you really get to see
Yeah.
on what they were having and experiencing, but also to how they got to the process that they're at now.
And I think that's, for me, been the biggest transformation, is that I've gone from a bourbon drinker with a podcast where I was just kind of talking with my buddies to a bourbon enthusiast, I guess, with a podcast that has been kind of serious. You know what I mean? Like, everything got so much more serious for me over the past 12 months. And not that I was like, oh, I'm just shooting the breeze and doing whatever while some friends and I are sitting down and pouring
Yeah.
Maker's Cast Strength or whatever.
And there was always a goal in mind.
Yeah,
on that.
there was absolutely, but I didn't wake up one morning and go, I'm gonna do a really freaking great interview with Mary Ann Eves, or I'm gonna go to the Bardstown Bourbon Company and have a round table with Steve Neely, who used to be the master distiller at Maker's Mark, Jim Rutledge, former master distiller at Four Roses, and John Hargrove, and it was just like everything just happened, and it all built on itself. I don't know, and this is a weird tangent that I've gotten off on, but it's all been part of my experience and my growth as like an enthusiast in this community, and wanting to be a part of the community. And I use this word, and it sounds kind of lame, but in just kind of like a very pure way, you know. Like I don't want to be a burden on anybody, or I don't want to cause harm. I just want to be a part of it. And I feel like I don't know why that's where that went, but it is what it is.
I'll say that just listening to the podcast has helped me with one specific thing. It's just knowing what to look for when I go into a liquor store now.
Yeah.
Like, I used to have this problem where I'd go in and I'd send you or Chad. I'm like, hey, look, here's an old label Jim Beam. And I'd send it to you, and you'd be like, yeah, it's an old label, but it's not the 8-year. Well, I was like, well, I don't really want to get it if it's nothing special, if it's just a swapped label.
Yeah.
Or knowing that the Knob Creek used to be age stated at X amount of years, and then looking for some of those things that when you go up to the person at the counter and you say, do you have anything special? Or like, the 15th person asked for Weller today. No, we don't have anything special. But then walking over to the shelf and realizing, oh, they've got a Austin Nichols Wild Turkey on the shelf. And they're not going to tell me that. You know, I had to figure that out.
Because they don't know.
Yeah, they don't know. I had to figure that out from here.
Yeah.
So when I go into the liquor store now and I'm scanning the shelf and I'm trying to figure out what I want to get, and I've never been to the place before, I know what I'm looking for more than just, well, they don't really have any Weller 12 or, you know, special reserve, even if it's behind the counter. But, you know, let me see what I can find. You know, I can find something usually decent now, or something that maybe isn't on every single shelf. Like we found T.W. Samuels. Took me a while to find that, but as soon as Perry called that out, it was, you know, I found it one or two places and I picked up a handle.
Yeah.
So
I'm ready for another pour.
mm-hmm.
Same.
I figured since we're on the weeder right now, we could go for the Rebel Yell.
Yeah.
No,
That's another bottle that was a first for me and a great kind of changer for me too. Because the first time somebody mentioned Rebel Yell to me, I was like, okay, right.
Yeah, Rebel Yell.
Yeah, and then then I tried this 10-year off of your recommendation and Swan's recommendation, and man, I fell in love.
So, Swan, why did you bring this one specifically? I'm curious.
I wanted to bring something that kind of gets overlooked, and you know, he just said it. People will tell you to avoid it at all costs. So I wanted to find something that, you know, people overlook. And on top of it, I've moved from Buffalo Trace being the best thing I can get every time I go into the liquor store to Heaven Hill. And this is, I think it's Heaven Hill distillate, right? Just wanted to say it was.
This might be. I can't remember for sure.
Well,
I think it is.
It's definitely reminiscent of it, of like the Larceny Old Fitz kind of stuff. And I've kind of moved to where Heaven Hill is one of my favorites. Heaven Hill Wild Turkey. Not that I'm not excited, like you said, to find E.H. Taylor, but this is kind of what I prefer now.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat too with Heaven Hill products.
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather go for a JW Damp Bottled and Bond than Weller Special Reserve at this point. Whether that's my palate changing or my preference on price or proof or whatever.
Or like you found it multiple times. Like
yeah.
It's on to the new thing.
The sparkle's gone.
Yeah.
And to that point, the sparkle is a little gone with Weller Special Reserve.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, once you learn that, yeah, it's not supposed to be a $50 bottle of bourbon.
Well, the sparkle on, I don't think I ever had a sparkle on Special Reserve.
Really?
Yeah. I always had I think it's because I started with like 107 and then went back to, you know, but that's just how I never had a sparkle for it.
The nose on this is great.
I love the nose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that classic weeder sweetness to it.
Just on the nose alone, I'd pick this over the Weller 12.
I'd have to agree.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a 10-year-old Rebel Yell. So, I mean, it's not aged as much. But there's some people that larger amount of age or like longer it ages. It's not necessarily
Yeah.
means it's better for them. They kind of have a sweet spot. Like I tend to go 12 to 15. It's kind of my sweet spot. And then I have like a barter house that's 20, and I'm like, it's too much.
Based on the nose, I would give it to the Rebel Yell. I think on terms of palate, I think I give it to the 12.
I might have to give it to the 12 as well.
I think I'd still go with this.
Really?
On both. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. There's still nothing wrong with this.
No, not.
I think this is still a very pleasant pour. It starts out incredibly enjoyable. I think the middle of the palate, I'm starting to get kind of like a graham cracker flavor. And the finish, it rolls a little bit. You know what? Maybe I would go with the Rebel Yell.
You think?
What's going on the chat?
Brian Brennicky just said, I believe Swan turned 17 today. Thanks, man.
That's great.
I'll get my ID out at the
Yeah,
end of the
show
podcast.
your ID.
Just make sure
I'm getting like toasted s'mores over a campfire.
I'd see that.
I could see the marshmallow
Yeah,
in it. Yeah.
for sure. I think s'mores is pretty spot on, honestly. Because now I'm picking up some of the chocolate on the nose, too. Like that kind of milk chocolate flavor. As
Do
well.
you like this better than the 11-year-old Old Fist they put out? I know it's probably been a while. I know you like it better than the 9, just based on your description of the 9 sample you got.
There was an anomaly about that.
Yeah.
I still am not sure what was up with that sample. Everybody says that the 9 year is better than the 11. I think I would have to go with the 11 over this.
Okay.
And the 14 over both of them.
That's fair. This is just, it's really close in age, and
Yeah.
apparently if it's a Heaven Hill distillate, or kind of reminiscent of it at least, that's pretty close.
They are very similar. I mean, absolutely, they are extremely similar. I think there's just a little bit, and it's probably that extra year of age, where I would just give the edge to the 11 year
Yeah, I just find it interesting that
by
the
that much.
price on this is like 70-ish, and then the
Yeah.
price on the 11 years, it's up there. You're paying for that bottle, though. I mean, let's be honest.
Well,
that
according to
bottle's-
Bernie Lovers, it's a $30 bottle.
Really? So, I mean, that's up there for bottle price, I'm assuming.
I really don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's just,
It's a nice bottle.
the cork,
Beautiful bottle.
the cork's hefty, man.
Oh, the cork's nuts. Yeah.
I hate flip flopping. I hate because I feel like when you
I
say
know.
something, you should be on it.
I know.
But now I'm like,
They're coming to my side.
yeah, I'm coming to your side. I think.
It's good, man. That's why I bought it. It was between this and the, I was going to maybe bring the Wild Turkey, what is it?
The Master's Keep?
I thought about that, and then I've got the Forgiven.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Forgiven, yeah.
was really good.
Yeah, because I've been leaning either Weeder or High Rye, one of the two, which is kind of contrasting, but I like both. So like the lower rye, Four Roses recipes are not always my favorite. I tend to go for the higher rye ones.
You know what's funny? I still don't know if I've had Forgiven yet.
Really?
Really. Because there was
think
one.
You have.
See, I don't. I
just brought you a sample. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I think you have.
Yeah.
And we all tried it. It doesn't matter.
I will
But you have
definitely
had
bring some next time for
Okay,
you.
that's fine.
Yeah, there's 2 batches. I've got batch 303, so we'll bring it and you can try it next time.
Okay.
So what's next?
Well, what's next is the other half of the samples that Joseph Brazo sent me.
Joseph.
He labeled this "Just Drink Me," and he said, "I'm not going to tell you what it is until you try it."
So tonight,
I mean, I've tried it. I know what it is,
you said
but you guys don't know
that's
what it is.
terrible, Barry. I will not have it.
Flying Blind Part 2.
Yeah.
Just about. Just about. I'm excited for this one. You guys are going to, you're going to like it. So why am I'm being rude. Pour for yourself. Pour for yourself, please. So there will be another part of the way that I've evolved over the past year in this too.
Uh-huh.
But I want us to talk about the bourbon itself before we talk about the experience that goes along with it.
There's some funk to this.
A little bit of funk. I'm getting a little more ethanol off this one than the last one.
I like this.
I think that's probably like, would it be higher proof, you think? Or no?
Maybe.
I'd lean higher proof just
Yeah.
because of the legs on the glass and just the kind of ethanol that I'm getting off of
Yeah.
it.
I do like this kind of halftime flying blind though. This is fun. This is definitely different.
It's the nose on this is delicious.
I'm picking up a tobacco note that I wasn't getting before now, too.
This reminds me of something I've had just based on the nose. It's the Wathen's Barrel Proof.
Okay, I can totally see that.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
He said, "How is this not gone yet?"
Oh, that's a very good question. I mean, I was trying to save this as well for tonight, but
Well,
I
are we
got
going?
a little bit. I got
Are
a
we
little
trying
bit
it?
left. So yeah, go ahead, try it. Why not?
Wow.
Definitely higher proof.
Yes, for sure higher proof.
The finish on that is
The
awesome.
finish is
Yeah.
unreal.
That Kentucky hug, man.
I don't have hardly
The tobacco,
any
I'm
complaints on
really
this.
pulling.
I
getting.
know. Man, it would be so good with a cigar.
Yeah, this would be the best cigar. Cigar bourbon. Joseph, thank you. Just, oh my gosh.
Man,
This is good.
It's not exactly dusty. Okay? There's a twist to it. You'll understand when I reveal it, but I feel like we should enjoy it a little bit more before we get there.
Yes, yeah, hold that thought.
When I was a kid, my grandparents had a farm, and one of the barns they had out there was just for drying tobacco. Standing in there and smelling this and tasting this brings me right back there.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Tobacco and like a jam. To me, it's like a jammy,
Yeah.
like a raspberry
Oh,
or
yeah.
a blackberry jam. More blackberry.
I was
I'm
gonna
gonna
say,
go blackberry.
I would go
not
more
raspberry.
blackberry.
Yeah.
The second sip for me on this, both times that I've had it, has always been way hotter. Like my palate got accustomed to it on the first go, and then the second sip of it, it just like the heat just creeps all over and it just blows
Yeah.
up
It's a bomb.
with it.
It
yeah,
explodes.
yeah.
On the nose, that second time, I really got the barrel influence.
There's a lot of char on it on the nose.
Yeah, I get some
For sure.
char and then like dried dates. You ever had those?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
This is definitely one of the darker bourbons.
Yeah,
I've
for
ever
sure.
had.
Which is, I tend to lean towards
I know.
darker bourbon.
And I've gone
And
that way too.
That's also in like whatever drink. That's why that's why I went, oh, I like bourbon. I like coffee. Oh, I like,
yeah, right.
more bitter kind of.
Okay. Are you guys ready for this?
Hit me with it, Perry.
This is a 117 proof bourbon.
Okay.
It is 60% of the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof B517 and 40% of the 1997 12-year-old Elijah Craig.
All right.
Wow.
I'm going to need to check your math on the proof there. No, I'm just kidding.
How good is that, though?
Oh,
That's
wow.
so good, man.
How good is that?
You're gutsy for mixing the old stuff
Isn't
with the
he?
new stuff.
So his reasoning behind it was that, let me pull it up though. He said, I found the B518 a little rough around the edges and the 97 a little too smooth. I tinkered a bit, and magic happened. I discovered I like tinkering.
Same. I like tinkering as well.
But how good is this?
This
It is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
very good.
So that's what you meant by there's a caveat on the Dusty. 'cause
Yeah.
It's,
Like it had the funky notes to it,
With the
but there was something else to it that you were like, oh,
it kicks it up.
it's
a notch.
so familiar.
I had the same problem with the B from this year and a little bit of the A. That's why I kind of lean towards the C release from Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. He pulled some magic on this one. The only thing I have wrong with it is there's still a little bit of that like overwhelming heat left
There's
on the
not enough.
tongue. That's
gone.
it. Yeah, there's still a little bit of that heat left on the tongue, but he has definitely changed up that bourbon.
You know, we should do that more often.
What do you mean?
Mix a few things, like just experiment more.
I'll go home and I'll make a blend and let it sit for 2 weeks, and the next time we do a podcast, let's bring our own blends.
Let's
could
do
be a
that.
segment.
Yeah, let's do that. Well, let's just make that the whole episode.
Yeah, sure.
So, 2 weeks from now, next episode will be we've all blended something together, and that's what we bring.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
So-
Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm all about this.
I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
I got some ideas already. Let's go. All right.
So my point in bringing that one up, though, was just how much I feel like we've latched onto Elijah Craig Barrel Proof over the past year. I mean, for crying out loud, it was our number one bourbon of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I loved everything that I had from 2017. But over the past 12 months, it's like Elijah Craig Barrel Proof has just become this cornerstone for me in my bourbon drinking. And it's funny because I every now and then step back and I go, I haven't had in a while. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Why am I doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Because of how much I love it. And not that I'm having barrel proof bourbons every day. If I did that, I mean, I'd never get anything done. But my point is just that, I have been so fond of it that I've just kind of let it be and almost forgotten about it a little bit, even though it's been so important over the past year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, like, what have been, for you guys, cornerstone bourbons that have helped you take that next step?
For this year?
Sure.
Okay.
Take your time. It'll get covered.
Yeah.
I got it. I think I can do it. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. I've gone from giving you a bottle thinking this is too much for me to this is the pinnacle of bourbon in
Okay,
a matter
I'm
of
sorry.
like 3 to 4 years. No, it's perfectly fine. I still had a half of it before I gave it to you.
I know.
And then Old Granddad 114
Mm-hmm.
has been a huge thing for me because I went from that was kind of my introduction to high rye bourbon was Old Granddad bonded, and then when I started getting into
Same.
the higher proof stuff,
Yeah.
and then finding out that something that they make down the road from my house is higher proof, Jim Beam profile, high rye, 114, and cheap. Let's add cheap to that. That's a huge thing for me because it's like under $30, so that's great. And then the last one has got to be, it's got to be. Oh, I just thought of it. What's it?
I have mine now.
Let's go with those two. If I can think of one more, I'll come back.
Okay. Sure.
Mine were definitely the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, and then also the George C. Stagg Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. But you can't consider that like a cornerstone bourbon.
Why not?
I mean, it's just so like I'm not gonna be like, you know what I haven't had in a while? George C. Stagg Buffalo Trace Antique Collection.
Well, I mean,
Well,
I haven't
duh.
had that in a while either.
Yeah, because you haven't had it in a while because you can't. Like that's just. But it was. I'm not gonna take that.
It's hard to compare anything else to it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly.
If you get like a $10 bottle of bourbon, like you pick up some JTS Brown and take it home, and you're like, this is good, but you know what's better? Buffalo Trace
Yeah.
Antique Collection.
And I feel like a cornerstone
It's
bourbon.
made to be.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
it is. I feel like a cornerstone bourbon is something that like you can revisit, you can have multiple times, and really just come back to. And it's like that was a pivotal moment, like a stepping stone. Like a stepping stone is not something you just step on one time and you're done.
Yeah.
In my opinion. The other one though is the Heaven Hill Bottle and Bond.
Yeah.
That has been a cornerstone of mine.
You know what's funny is that I actually... It's funny, losing Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond 6 year for me was kind of a cornerstone. Because that meant that I had to go outside of my comfort zone, and I had to start relearning what it was that I liked and finding a replacement for my everyday sipper.
Like the Dant and the Samuels.
And I mean, if I hadn't taken the leap of faith and gone, it's another Heaven Hill product. It's cheap. It's a handle. I may as well get a bottle of this TW Samuels.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, I did, and I freaking love it. I've been preaching the gospel of it for however long.
Yeah.
If I had to pick another cornerstone, Rare Breed. Wild Turkey 101.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've based a lot of stuff around that this year.
Yeah.
It's so good. If I get to the point where I'm absolutely stumped and I want something that's higher proof and they're out of the old Granddad 114, I'm going home with Rare Breed.
For sure. Just discovering my overall love of Wild Turkey products
Yeah.
over the
Yeah.
past year. That has been crazy for me. And I mean, I went on and on and on about, yeah, turkey's good, it's fine, but it just doesn't look like anything that, you would want to be drinking. It's just outdated labeling, packaging, blah, 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 blah. To me going,
Where's that?
who's got the vintage turkey? Because this guy wants some.
See, and I think there's something to that. The vintage turkey. And this is for me though.
Sure.
And I know that even when I revisited it, there was something that I wanted more of, and then since having the vintage 101, I'm like, that's what I want. That for me, Rare Breed trumps 101 just like by far too, like just blows it out of the water. There's something about 101 that just doesn't sit well with me. I think it's good, don't get me wrong. It's just there's something about it that's off.
You talking about like today's?
Yeah, today's
101?
101. Yeah. And I know that I'm like a minority on it, and it's probably more my palate hasn't been developed as much or something of that matter.
Well, how about some of yesterday's 101? I'm going to give you a choice.
Okay.
I'll give the birthday boy the choice. 07 or 10?
I'm going to go with the 10 because I remember from your podcast that the 10 was what you guys kind of leaned towards as kind of a special thing from Chad's handle.
Yeah, that's not the same. Yeah, of course, that's not the same bottle as
No, it's not.
what we. Yeah.
But I'm just curious to see if that magic carries through to different bottles. Because, I know even the Rare Breed that I get, we talk about consistency, their laser codes. It's one of the few where you kind of hunt out specific laser codes. It's just good, man. It's so good. I like this better than the turkey they're offering today, but I also understand that they've got to keep up with demand. I mean, you got people left and right taking out age statements, and he's still putting the same juice he had in 20 years ago. He's putting in the same age stuff and blending it to get what he wants. So there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
But there's some magic in this.
On.
It makes me want to go buy 30 or 40 bottles of turkey and then sit them in my closet and then 10 to 15 years later thinking, look what I found, guys. I got these stockpiled.
Yeah, they're like, where'd you find that? Oh, I've been sitting on them.
Yeah.
See, that's been the interesting thing too. Is I've thought about that a lot recently. What's the bourbon market gonna be like in the next 10 to 15 to 20 years? It's so hard to predict what's going to be what everybody seeks? What was the gym during this era?
I think it'll probably be
Wilderness Trail.
yeah,
It very well could be. New
that
riff,
could be,
too.
yeah. I think it's also you're gonna probably see a lot of what kind of already exists. Like people go nuts over Buffalo Trace. They go nuts over Dusty Turkey. They tend to look at the birthday bourbon releases as a holy grail type bourbon. I think new stuff that's coming out, I'm not sure. I mean, it seems like they tend to go for the established stuff, the stuff that's got a name and history behind it. And Jim Beam's putting out right now, in my opinion, some limited, they're calling it limited releases. They might be worth something. The Distiller's Cut, the Prohibition style stuff. I mean, I would pick those up again, especially if they were considered dusty and I'm, getting up there.
I'm sure when you're like, back then when you're looking at Jim Beam Black or something like that,
You're like,
more
whatever.
than likely you're like, well,
But
whatever.
that's what I'm saying is like, 30, 40, 50 years from now, are people going to look at the non-age stated Jim Beam Black 86 proof bottle
and say
the same thing that we were saying earlier about the 1978
age stated
age stated 90 proof Jim Beam Black?
I think it'll depend on what's on the shelf. Like if bourbon demand goes down and all of a sudden Jim Beam says, you know what, we've got the barrels to put that 8-year back on it. We've got the barrels to put the 101 month back on it.
Yeah.
If that's back on the shelf and then you've got the non-age stated, there's not going to be as many people excited about the non-age stated just because it sat in your closet for an extra 15 years. So, I mean, it's going to depend on how in favor, I guess, bourbon is at the time.
It's an interesting topic.
Yeah, and this isn't necessarily the exact episode or forum for it. We'll talk about it in the future. But it was just when you brought that up, I just figured it was a good time to raise that question. But anyway, this turkey is fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. So going back to our topic, this is your modern day preference. Like this is at the end of this is the beginning of 2019. This is what you kind of prefer. It's the wild turkey.
And this is what I'm hunting. This is what I'm paying a little bit extra for to get older bottles up.
Yeah.
I mean, but a year ago I would have been like, screw that noise.
Yeah, I can go get wild turkey for
$16.
$16.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why am I gonna like try to find older bottles? And honestly, I owe a lot of that to Chad, and him allowing me to try his bottle of 2010 Turkey 101. Because then I was like, there is something else out there. And then finding out that Dusty Turkey is coveted. I'm like, well, maybe I'll try that. And then, trying that, you're like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's all a matter of experience and trying.
Which maybe.
Go ahead.
I don't know, man. Because just thinking that, this is 2010. It's only 9 years.
It's only 9 years old. Yeah.
Maybe I am wrong. I'll have to revisit it again.
You might have to.
It's something that has always come up, and I always revisit, and then I always come to the same conclusion. But I think, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
I kind of fell onto the turkey kick because I was looking for pre-fire and older Heaven Hill and stuff initially when we started leaning towards Dusty's, and then stumbling on Dave Jennings and just how thorough he is with wild turkey as a whole. I'm like, man, there's got to be something to it because people go nuts for this.
And there's nobody else who does that kind of thing. There's not a maker's blog.
No, there's not.
Where people go back and try to, talk about old makers or the different expressions of makers. There's only two. There's only three expressions of makers.
Yeah, anybody that's doing anything makers related is here's the Kentucky bottle from this year, here's the Kentucky bottle from the year after. Yeah. I mean, they're doing different bottlings of the same juice. They're not drinking it.
Here's the commemorative bottle of Justify.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Yeah,
There's people that love
that. And that's
a
collector's item in itself.
But
I'm not gonna lie. Like you look at turkey bottles, and you're not gonna find any you're not going to find those
No.
for the most part.
People aren't drinking those though. A lot of them they're taking it, and keeping it,
Yeah, exactly.
and I don't blame them for it because if you can go buy a $20 or $25 bottle of Makers for the same price as for like a third of the price of the regular, and then keep that on the shelf, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But with the turkey, it's coveted. People take it home. They crack it for special occasions.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's definitely some
Different
dedication
market.
behind it.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. So moving on to the next pour too. And this was by Swan's special request. What Swan has described as maybe his favorite nose of all time. This is the pre-fire, age-stated, Fighting Cock Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey from Heaven Hill.
This has got my favorite nose on any bourbon I've had.
It's very unique. It's very good. There's baked goods, like fresh baked bread.
Louis just said I should have some of the spring mill.
And no,
No, this is
not subject you to that.
This is just, it's great, man. This is my favorite nose for sure. Like out of almost everything that I've had, there are some that are just so different that I wouldn't even compare them. Like some of the Booker's noses and stuff.
Yeah.
But for like 100-ish proof,
103.
yeah, this is good.
So even compared to the pre-fire Bottled and Bond,
Yeah, I take this.
still this.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, totally fine.
Yeah.
You do you.
No, I'm just weird, man. I like this over. I like this over the George C. Stagg.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bold.
Wow.
I mean, that's the thing is, I guess some people just kind of
Go back to his
get their
top.
preferences.
Go back to his top list.
No, I mean just the nose.
He's wrong.
Let's
Just,
go back to the tape.
He went back to his top list. He said it wasn't.
If you're just now tuning in.
just the nose for sure.
Yeah.
I think the George C. Stagg has way more to offer on the palate. But this one's special to me.
That first sip of it, the first big note that I'm getting is those baked goods, like fresh bread flavor to it.
It's
Almost like,
specifically like a fresh bread.
yeah,
Not like, a baked sugar cookie or a baked, it's specifically like bread and yeast.
yeah. I think it's the yeast that's coming through for me. Man, it's so good.
Yeah, well, Sean cut carbs, and then all of a sudden he's like, I'm going to go for the breadiest nose I can get.
Who's Sean?
Swan, my bad. I'm a bird.
So
Oh, it's a fireball doing it to me, guys. I'm sorry.
that half.
Half of an airplane bottle of
Yeah.
Fireball.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I will say this is another thing that if you had told me at the beginning of last year that I would have been able to own two, not just one, but two pre-fire Heaven Hill bourbons, I'd have said you nuts.
Yeah.
I'd
Also,
have said you crazy.
a funny thing is, a year ago, if you would have said, "Yeah, I have two pre-fire," I would go,
What is that?
"Yeah, what is that?" A, B, like you just keep saying pre-fire. Like, is it fire? Is it like really fire juice that you're getting in there, or like what's happening?
It's lit.
Yeah, like which is so just naive, but
Yeah.
nonetheless.
This was another thing for me. I mean, not just in terms of acquisition again, but just being able to try something again from an era that I was never able to experience or be a part of.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's so transformative of the way that I experience bourbon. And I think that's been, really at the core of it for me. Regardless of whatever bottles I've had or, events that I've gone to, just the way that I have even just seen myself change as a bourbon drinker. And I love the state of mind that I'm able to be in with bourbon. I love the the fact that the podcast is still here and everything. I don't really know where I was going with this, but
I like it though.
yeah, if you had told me a year ago that I would be here doing this, I'd have been like, I would have been like,
And interviewed the people you
I don't know
have
about that.
interviewed. Yeah.
I like
we've
being
done
able
some
to-
pretty cool
We've done
things over the past
some cool
year.
things. You specifically have done some really cool things.
I'm lumping you in with that.
Yeah, no, I'm meaning I also have.
Yeah, I mean, but think about all the people that we got to interview
Oh, that's
at Bourbon
crazy.
and Beyond.
Yeah, that's wild.
I mean,
yeah, I mean, I'm included in that.
Yeah.
I'm just meaning like some of the people you also have done
Oh, I
individually,
know.
and the like work you put into it.
yeah.
Man,
I like being able to experience history through bourbon. This is so much better than sitting in class and learning about like
Uh-huh.
European history and
Mhm.
stuff. Just going back and like, before the pre-fire and getting to try all this.
There's no bourbon history without European history, though.
That's true. That's true. I just really didn't like that class,
I understand.
but
I understand.
it's
yeah,
it's good, man. Like it's crazy to know that these people, just make this stuff every single day, and then one day they had something crazy happen, and now everything they did before that specific time is just coveted to people. And I like being able to kind of go back and have that and taste it and know that it's something special. Not that anything that Heaven Hill puts out is bad now. It's just this has got something different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's nice to go back and experience that literally distilled into a glass.
I gotta say, Swan, this was a pretty good choice for.
very good choice.
See, I'm not crazy.
I
I'm a
never
little
said you
crazy,
were.
but it's pretty good stuff. I love it, man. I mean, just looking at everything in that cabinet, that's exactly what I went towards. It was between that and I wanted to try the Charter 101 because I hadn't had that.
Oh, we'll pull that down a little bit too.
Yeah, but no, it's just good stuff.
So I said this earlier, and I'm holding true to my word, that we're gonna do a fresh crack of an Elijah Craig Barrel Proof B517, which was one of the absolute best bourbons that I had in 2017. I finished off my first bottle of this, I don't even know how long ago. I mean, middle of last year. Never thought that I'd see it again. Never thought that I'd have it again. Opportunity knocked on my door, and I said,
Yes, please.
come on in. Yes, I will have what you're selling.
They are not Girl Scout cookies.
But there are two things I want to say, maybe three, before we actually get into it. The first, of course, is happy birthday, Swan.
I'm 16 today.
I thought you were 17.
Well, Joseph has told me I'm now 16.
Oh, okay. You're going backwards, Benjamin Button style.
yeah.
Anyway, I'm happy we got to spend your birthday with you like this. It's been
Thanks,
really
man.
cool. It's been different, but as long as you are all for it.
Yeah, you're gonna pour me some Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Let's get to it, man.
Yeah, well, and we've done it for the past 2 weeks too.
Yeah. But I got to say, the past year has been really cool to see how we've all grown and come together to not just with the show, but as, friends and bourbon drinkers and all that. So I'm thankful for you guys for being there through all of this. That's all the sappiness I'm going to get into. But I have this idea. I've reviewed this on the show before. And I kind of want to go back and try and review it again.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Because,
All right,
it's-
Perry, open the bottle. I'm just joking.
okay, so backstory. The first time I reviewed this, it was with Will and the Greaves from the podcast. Okay. And it was for like episode 5.
I remember.
So
this.
a solid year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what I think about it now with a year and a half under my belt and actually reviewing it again.
Agreed.
Thoughts?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah? Okay, cool. So, first and foremost,
That was
solid.
solid.
Yeah.
That was a stout uncorking.
Birthday boy first. Right?
Yeah. And with the New Orleans glass too. Cuts all that ethanol too.
Man.
This is good. It's been a long time since I've had this because this was one of the few Elijah Craig releases that people went nuts over.
Yeah.
And usually it'll sit on the shelf for a couple of hours, which I know that doesn't sound like much, but when Weller comes in, it's gone in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So a few hours is pretty impressive. This one, as soon as they called it Whiskey of the Year, gone. Couldn't find it.
You know what's funny though? As good as this nose is, at this point, I'm left comparing it to the C917. Or excuse me, the C918.
Yes.
And the C918 is superior.
I think so too. I actually picked the C917 from this year as better than this initially. It's been a long time since I've had it, but I think it was just the proof. This was the lowest proof they've put out in a while. So it was a little more approachable for everybody,
Yeah.
which was nice, but it also just had some really, really good notes. C917, it was hot. And at the time, I was drinking
Oh yeah.
quite a bit more barrel proof, and less, 90 to 100. So as soon as I had one that came out that was hovering around the 130 range, I was all over it.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to revisit it. Oh, there's just nothing wrong with that. The comment you always make where Elijah Craig is what you think bourbon is supposed to be, this is what barrel proof bourbon is supposed to be.
I'm sorry, I'm really thinking about this one. Because this is not what I remember it to be
Really?
at all.
Wow, that finish, man.
The finish is incredible. I would second that for sure. I think the front of the palate is a little bit flat. Just a little bit, but the middle is really where it kind of shines through for me.
Very robust. See, I think the nose is where it's a little less than what I want.
Yeah. Oh, but second sip though. Oh, wow. Okay. So second sip, I'm starting to get a honeysuckle note to it as well. And then I'm also, there's kind of a peanut butter to it. And then it starts rolling into some of the darker flavors. I'm starting to pick up some of the char and some of like the dark chocolate notes. The finish is really where I think the barrel influence comes in. And as it hits the barrel influence, or as it hits the finish rather, that's where I find a butterscotch note that
Yeah.
I think is super good.
I get the butterscotch really,
Yeah.
like towards the end there. It's really good. And then I get like a kind of a tobacco-y, almost like that smell that you get from when you walk into one of those places where you throw the peanut shells on the ground.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Texas Roadhouse?
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that a little bit. And then,
It's like a salted peanut. Yeah.
yeah, it's just kind of a salted peanut. And it's just kind of, I don't know, it's not overwhelming. I get the honey note, but I think that's more because of like just the way that it kind of sits on your palate a little bit. It's kind of more viscous. It's good.
I think really the one downside that I have to it is the nose. Honestly.
That's what I thought.
I think it's the weakest point of it.
Because the front of the palate, when you say it was flat, at least for me, it was more that it was just not as barrel influenced, and it had more of a sweeter note to it. I think where you got the honeysuckle, and that's when I was like, okay, that's what it starts out sweet, and then it just explodes. It's like a bourbon bomb of just here's this barrel influence, here's the char, here's the smoked meat, and then the finish just like goes on forever.
Yeah. As I've gone back to the nose, it's a little bit fuller, but it's just not quite what I remembered it being, and it's not quite what I was expecting it to be, especially still coming off of the heels of C918.
I think the reason I'd prefer C918 over this is because my favorite note out of the regular Elijah Craig is the baking spices, and I get more of that on the C918.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's the only reason I would lean towards that. But that's me comparing it to Elijah Craig, which is what I generally consider to be one of my favorites. If I'm looking at this as a standalone bourbon, this is still phenomenal.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just don't know. I don't know what my original score was for this.
It's probably better off because then we can get something new.
Yeah. So I will go back. I'll edit in what my actual score was after we give our final ones.
Yep.
Just for comparison and all that. But for anybody who doesn't know, we have a review system of nose, palate, finish, and price. Each category is out of 5. We total it up for a total score out of 20. And that is your indicator of whether or not you should buy this. This is going to be a little different because you can't necessarily buy this anymore. But I kind of think that as far as Elijah Craig barrel proof goes, the price is always pretty consistent for me. The price score at 65. 65, which is pretty much what you're going to find it for on the shelves.
Mm-hmm.
Someplace you're going to find it for 85 or 90, but I think in general you're going to see it anywhere from 60 to 65. So anyway, keeping that in mind, Swan, what would you give the nose?
I'm going to give the nose a 3.5. I think it's solid. There's some stuff it needs. I think I'm just looking for it to be a little more reminiscent of what I get on the palate.
That's what I totally agree with as well. I'm going to give it a 3, though, instead of a 3.5.
I am too, actually.
It just is... It's the weakest point, but it doesn't show any influence on what the palate represents. And it's kind of a little bit of a 180 in that terms.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's
a good nose. I don't want to put anyone off on that.
Yeah.
But
and I really don't have anything
bad
to
I don't
say
have
about the
either.
nose.
Yeah.
Other than I just wish that there were a little bit more to it.
Yes.
It's
a little more complexity.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you expect.
It's above average.
Yes.
By every sense of the word.
Mm-hmm.
But it still leaves me going, what else?
Yeah.
Palate-wise, though.
Yeah.
I kicked the score up a whole point. It's a 4 for me on the palate.
Score for me was a 4.5.
Wow. Okay.
I really love this palate.
4.5.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. I will kind of echo what I was saying earlier. It's a really nice kind of roller coaster. It has some really interesting and exciting notes on there. The cohesiveness is still kind of there. I still know what all's going on from beginning to end. It's just a fantastic palette for me. And you guys thought it was a little bit more than fantastic too, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then.
I mean, the bomb, that's what I really... Some of the barrel proof bourbons, what I want in a barrel proof is for it to just sucker punch me, man. I love that about some barrel proof bourbons, where they just go, here's this bomb, explode. It's just awesome.
I don't have anything bad to say about it.
Yeah.
Just I can't look for anything better. If I had to look for anything better to get that 5, it would just be kind of the George T. Stagg or something that was just so outlandishly good and kind of would connect back to the nose a little bit. I mean, I know I shouldn't have one score affect the other, but if you're just looking for a cohesive, full-bodied bourbon, it's just missing that a little bit. I did try some of the other ones with water, and I remember trying this one with water, and it holds up. It's not great. I'm still going to prefer this without it.
Yeah, I agree.
But if you're a person that likes to drink it with ice, or you want to put a couple dashes of water in it, it's definitely going to be great still.
Yeah.
It's probably still going to be better than what they have on the shelf at 94 proof. So
Yeah, I agree with that. Finish. Finish is my favorite part of this. I gave it a 4.5.
Okay.
I think the finish is just absolutely fantastic. It explodes into something entirely different from what I was getting on the palate. You know, that butterscotch note that I was talking about, the darker notes that keep shining through, but still maintains everything that I really liked on the palate, just extending it. I just think there's just nothing wrong with it for me.
Yeah, no, there isn't.
How do you compare this to the Booker's finish on the 2018-4?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Because you said that was one of your favorites on that one, right?
Yeah. That's a good question. I'd have to go back and revisit it.
Yeah.
At the very least, do them side by side.
Yeah. I'm going with the 4.
4?
It's so good. It stays there for the longest time, and then it really does accentuate and heightens the experience of what you're having with the palate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll give it a 4.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the right word.
Extenuate?
But
it's not a word at all. It's accentuate.
Extenuate. It extends.
And accentuates.
And accentuates.
All right, fair
so,
enough.
I went with a 4 as well. I think the only thing I'm missing on the palate is I get more of a hug with some of the other bourbons. Not that I don't get it with this one, but then there was one thing, because I listened to it the other day. Guys, I have a data entry job. I listen to these podcasts way too much. I pretty much, I get the Kentucky hug. The finish is there. The flavor that kind of hits the back of your palate right before the finish is good, and the transition's good. You said one thing with the 2018-04 that I don't get on this, that kind of almost dripping honey effect. I don't get that as much.
Yeah, I definitely don't get that with this.
That is so crucial for me to go from that 4 to a 5, because that's just so much longer lasting and kind of has an extra element to it that this doesn't have. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Isn't that what I gave? Didn't I give the finish on the 1804
I
a
was going to
5?
say you gave it a 5, yeah.
Yeah, I think I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Price, I gave it a 4. I think it's $60 to $65. You know, with this proof, this overall quality, it's a very solid product in the market right now. Whether or not you can find it is one thing. I think if it were readily available at that price, it would be one thing. I think that's probably what would bring me up to a 5. But, where it's a little bit more, not necessarily limited, but, you can't just go out and buy it like you used to be able to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I gave it a 4. So,
I think I'm going to give it a 4 as well.
yeah.
Yeah. Part of me wants to say 4.5, just because the quality of bourbon.
I get that.
The quality of bourbon that you are getting with this, and at $65, that's tough to find anywhere else.
I get it.
And especially that, even though you can't just walk out and find it, you're more than likely to find it than some of the others.
Yeah.
So I think I'm switching to 4.5.
Okay.
I gave it a 4.5 as well. So I'm a little ashamed to admit with the C918, I loved it so much that I picked up a lot of it. I paid for 2 of the bottles substantially more than $60 it's normally around. I'll go ahead and tell you, I don't care. I paid $190 and I have one for $100. And I'm happy to pay those because I know that it's worth it. If I had to take a special release like the George T. Stagg, which, this year I found the William LaRue Weller for $105.99 after tax. That's retail.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's retail. Yeah. Granted, it's very difficult to find it, but if I had to put this up against the WLW, I'd say they're up to par. So if I'm comfortable paying that for the WLW, why won't I pay it for this?
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, it's a no-brainer. I'd give it a 5, but the only thing holding me back is knowing that I can go get a thing of TW Samuels for $20.
Yeah.
There's some bourbon that the price is just so good for the quality you're
So
receiving.
spot on.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, I'm always going to want it to be cheaper, but
Sure.
it's good at the price it's at.
Sure. So going down the line, Swan gave it a 16.5 out of 20. Curtis gave it a 16. I gave it a 15.5 out of 20. I seem to remember that I was in about the 14.5 range. So I could have gone up a little bit on it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to find out right now because I'm going to edit in what my actual score was from that very first episode.
Blank.
And there you have it. So that's our review. Our second review, really, for Elijah Craig Barrel Proof B517. And I really think that about does it for this episode. It's been a really fun one. I've really enjoyed it. But we do still have a couple of things to do before we get out of here. And first, I have to ask you guys, what are your tips and bits for this week?
I went all out on tips and bits.
Did you?
Oh, you got multiple.
Spent a whole week cultivating
He said,
some
"All right, here we
tips
go."
and bits. I actually went back and looked at my iTunes library and found out I wanted to get 3 to 5 albums, entire albums, that I listened to in their entirety a lot. So I looked at the frequency of like how much I played them. I picked 4 albums that I apparently like played more than any other album, and they're like all over the place. There's no consistency at all. So at number 4, I had More Than You Think You Are by Matchbox 20.
Really?
Yep. Okay. Really liked that album. At 3, I had Screaming Bloody Murder by Sum 41.
Wow.
Yeah.
Swan with the throwbacks.
Yeah. And at number 2, I had the 2007 Alive album by Daft Punk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
I really like that album.
I'm not judging you. I never thought you were a Daft Punk guy.
Oh, huge. Huge.
Huh.
Yeah. I've got a Rams shirt somewhere at home. Yeah. And then the last one that I had, and this is probably my favorite artist, so it makes sense to me, was How to Be a Human Being by Glass Animals.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Huge Glass Animals fan.
Yeah. Good band.
Wow. Yeah.
So
They are really good.
all 4 of those are pretty good. My 5th one was another Glass Animals album. There's only 2, so.
Nah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my tips and bits is going to be not music, but personal finance. Been really getting into it, man. Just been awesome.
We had a whole conversation about that off air last week after we
did.
got done
I
recording.
really have. I don't know why I find it so interesting, but it blows my mind.
Yeah.
How
How far we've come on this podcast, going from recommending Childish Gambino to personal
finance. Please get your finances in order.
It's funny. We go from like kind of goofy and the mics turn off, and you're like, so how's your 401k?
Yeah.
Please tell me you're diversifying.
Are you kidding me? Have you checked your fees? Are you kidding me? But anyway, I'll make this short. But Grant Sabatier, he has a book called Financial Freedom, and it talks about how he went from $2 in his bank account. In 5 years, he had $1.5 million.
Okay.
All through investing.
Okay.
And he now is
I'll
retired.
get on board with that.
And he can, and it's all about retiring early, kind of stuff like that. Just financial freedom in the sense of you don't have to like retire by that point. Like if you can increase your income and do all that. But it's just super interesting. So
YouTube, please don't flag us for weird promotions.
It's not that weird.
I know, I'm just kidding. There was a new Tedeschi Trucks Band album that came out this past week. I don't know if you guys know who they are. Derek Trucks,
Yep.
He's a guitar player. He used to run around with Eric Clapton. He played with the Allman Brothers Band for a little while. He and his wife, Susan, they have a band together now. Absolutely fabulous band. The album that just came out is unbelievable. I know that it's, more music and everything, but
That's fine. I mean, the Black Keys
Holy
just came
crap.
out with something today.
yes, they
Yeah,
did, and it's
yeah.
so good. That was actually
Yeah.
my other one.
Yeah.
It was a high
It's
low.
good.
Or is it high low or low high? I don't remember.
I don't know. And then Caged Elephant just came out with a new one.
Yeah.
You listen to them at all? So.
There's good stuff music-wise coming out right now.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think that about does it for this week, though. Thank you all so much for listening. What's kind of been your journey this past year with bourbon? What have you learned about yourself as a bourbon drinker, as an enthusiast? Let us know on social media at My Bourbon Pod, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. But before I get to the rest of my plugs, where can people find you all on social media?
On Instagram, you can find me at KurtCon. On Twitter, at Kurt_Con15.
I'm on Instagram and at the Bourbon Finder. It's pretty much the only place I'm at. So,
Well, personally, I am at pritter1492. Again, at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter if you want to follow up with the show. Bourbonshop.threadless.com is where you can find all of our apparel and merch. Let's see, what else? 5-star rate and review on iTunes, please. That really does help us out. Hearing some good feedback. There are 6 tickets left. 6 for the live show next month at the Silver Dollar in Louisville. The Women of Bourbon panel. It's going to be a super fun time. If you haven't gotten tickets yet, they're only $5 a piece. And again, there's 6 left. So let's sell it out. Let's pack the place. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think you guys are going to really enjoy that show. There will be a link, of course, in the description of this episode below. And then patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast is where you can become a supporter of the show for as little as $1 a month. And that really does help us out. I think that some people don't realize that,
Cut that out.
it'll get cut out. Sorry. Even the littlest bit helps so much. I mean, it's just one of the best things you can do for us is, even though, you're sharing and you're subscribing and doing all those awesome things, this is something that doesn't pay for itself. And if you appreciate what we're doing and you want to help it keep going, that's a great way to do that. So patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast is where you can do that if you're interested. Curtis and Swan, thank you guys as always for being on the show.
Thank you, Barry.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. Happy birthday again, Swan.
thanks.
I hope that you've had a good 16th.
I feel like I have to get
Quinceañera.
carded now.
I know.
I have to get carded on your podcast.
That's the right year, right? Quinceañera?
Yeah, it's 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. That does it for us. We will see you next week, but until then, I'm Perry,
I'm Curtis.
I'm Swan.
and this is My Bourbon Podcast.